Hey everybody, welcome back. A lot to go over with NVIDIA this evening and what happened, but let's just talk about the basics because tomorrow we will have some light volume. We are fully aware of that. We know what to expect with tomorrow, but let's deal with the obvious. You're sitting here and you're fighting the ES up at this level. This is really all you have left. This 45.63, this is definitely becoming an issue for us right up here. Now we've bonked once, we've bonked twice, and we're going to see, but tomorrow looks like another bonk, probably because we're not going to have the volume. Tonight was really the thing with NVIDIA for the end of the year as far as earnings, and we're going to get into that in some really big detail, actually, what went on tonight, what you should focus on, and how you should be looking at it. But right in here, I'm not so sure that we're going to get the volume that we need to push here. I'm not so sure that it happens tomorrow. So, and frankly, I'm not sure it's going to happen on Friday either. So we're going to want to watch this. We're going to want to see how this plays out. If you look during the day today, we can see that we just kept testing this level hour after hour after hour. And then finally, as always, things make a decision. And they made a decision this morning, sold down. Then we just get Wick City right in here. And there's not really a whole heck of a lot more to do or to focus on there, but you have worked off completely that overbought condition on the RSI. If you've been a fan of this channel for some time, first thanks, but you know that I do look at this, and what I'm looking at here is here we were overbought again, and all that did was get us to go sideways. So is that what's going to happen here? Just that sideways action, and kind of looking that way, doesn't it? So I don't know. The one thing that I don't like, and it is towards meaning that we're getting towards Thanksgiving, so it's going to be slow anyway. I don't like how we're staying below here on the hourly. So I don't want to stay below on the hourly. I want to stay above on the hourly, even if I don't like the action, right? I like to see how it's above. That's more important to me. I don't like being below. I want to be above and go sideways, not below. Below leads to more volatility. Look at this on the 4 hour. This is something else that I'm watching. This is the lowest that we've been on the 4 hour. So this is not, again, something that I'm really crazy about. And you have to look at it all, guys. You can't just look at what you want to look at, right? You have to look at everything. So again, I mean, we are sliding down here, and this did go higher. So am I building a negative divergence? Have we come too high, too fast? Are we setting up to pull back? There's some things that we're going to have to look at here, and there's some things that we're going to have to pay attention to. That's for sure. I'll show you a graph in a moment that is something that I do look at, and it does work. But if you take a look at the NQ and right in here, you're overbought and you're rolling back down. We just had NVIDIA's earnings. Is that going to mark a top? It might mark a top for a couple days. I don't know that we're going to get the volume here that we're going to need. Now, we're going to have to dig into NVIDIA's earnings. We're going to have to talk about the stocks and what happened tonight. But I do want to show one thing. Now, this is a graph that a lot of institutions will look at, and I'm going to show you how to use this in a moment. But this is what we refer to as RSI spread. Greater than 16 has suggested rally exhaustion. And what this is going to show you is that exhaustion level, the spread of 16. You can see where we're at right now. Now, how you're calculating this light blue that's in here that's marking these peaks pretty accurately. You can see that. I think it's very accurate, quite frankly. But RSI percentage, the 14-day greater than 70, minus the RSI less than 30. Okay, so the RSI percentage, 14-day greater than 70, minus the RSI less than 30. When you do that, you're getting a spread. That spread is giving you an exhaustive rally. And what they're saying is when you're over 16, that's when it can happen. Now, just understand this and understand where you are here. Before we start to look at this and what this truly means, there are a couple things. All right. The very first thing, don't mean that you're going to get to 16 and all of a sudden, I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but don't mean that you're going to get to 16 and miraculously the market's going to drop because this got to 30, this got to 25. Okay. So can you keep going? Yes. It's one data point, and as everything else, we just monitor it and we look at it. Now, I'm going to give you a really simple way to look at this versus how they're doing it so that you don't have to try to figure out this calculation. What you're doing is you're overlaying your RSI. My RSI is going to look a little different than yours, but you're overlaying the RSI with your 14-day moving average. And that's what this is, a 14-day moving average. What I want you to take away from it is instead of suggesting that because you're at some level that something is supposed to happen because of the spread, and you're supposed to calculate the spread and come up with this new thing that you're supposed to learn, here's a really quick back of envelope way to look at what they're talking. If you are over 70 and you undercut over 70, to me, that is usually a signal that we are probably going to sell off. Where they're going is they're taking it a step further. They're saying, tell me the day that it's going to sell off or market. I would use your moving average cross over 70. That they are usually going to be signals. So here you are over 70, and then here's your cross of that moving average. And I would suggest that if you utilize this, whether or not that's going to you're over 70. Whether or not that's going to put in the highs or not put in the highs, I would suggest that it's something that you certainly are going to want to pay attention to. And then eventually, not like everything else, it always doesn't work, but you can see these levels that even when you're not over 70 and you break to the downside, you're going to have some issues. Even here, you got to 50 and rejected, and you could see when it kicked in. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to mark off these areas and saying, you're not really there yet, are you? But it is something that we want to pay attention to. We don't want this to break. So this might be an opportunity that if you're looking for some kind of long-term signal, that we want to watch this and make sure it doesn't roll over. If you're interested in this a little bit more, comment below and I can spend some time this weekend going over it. For our sake, the reason I wanted to show that is we're all getting a little giddy, right? And we've had a nice real rally in here. We just had earnings on NVDA. We're going to have to talk about that. We know what's going on with the markets. We know the bond market's doing everything perfectly. See how this lined up perfectly right in here where it cracked? See, same thing here, right? Sometimes, they're not going to ring a bell, guys. But when you start to look at this, there is something to it. For me, it's over 70 and then crossing. And sometimes, sometimes it's not the best signal. By the time this made it, it was over. But this would have saved you. This would have saved you. This certainly saved you. And then you can watch the signal unwind and know when that signal might start going the other way too, right? Something to think about, something to add to your arsenal. And I do find it helpful in determining trend. So that's what you're using it for. Whether or not you act on it, that's up to you. But it will help you determining trend. But the bond market's dropping, and we know that. We know that yields dropping and bonds are being bought. All right, so we understand that, and we know what's going on with the NASDAQ, and we know that the VIX is absolutely plummeting, right? We're at 13. We're a teenager again, so we can't even drive. So that's something that we have to look at as well. What are we going to do with that? We start getting into these indexes. We look at XLC. We see that moving up. This looks like an absolute monster. Quite frankly, I think we would have had a much better day on the index had we not had to worry about NVIDIA. Now, there's a lot on NVIDIA that we're going to pay attention to. You can start seeing how they're selling down. We're down 10 points from the close after hours. The call in and of itself was absolutely excellent. The whole is the word China and the fact of they're being very cautious on what they're saying about China. Very, very cautious on what they're saying about China. But as far as the data points, let's get into it. Now, for time's sake, I'm going to do it this way and drill into these numbers. And I want to show you how you should be set up for these. But let's just talk about the highlights and what we have out there. Really what we're going to focus on is from what came out at night to, from 4 o'clock on, really from 4:20. I always want to know exactly when they're supposed to come out with earnings because they have a drop dead date or time. And this obviously was at 4:20. Okay. So here we are, and there's the 420, and we can see what happened. 402, 336, 118, beat 16. So let's deal with reality. Everybody said there's no way they're going to do 16. They're stuffing the channel. They're doing this. They're doing that. They beat. Not only did they beat, these were the notes we had in the community today. And what I'm showing you is what we were going over in the, in the private community. And the reason I'm showing you is not only did they beat, this was the high end of the range, 18.2. This was the whisper number, 17.5. So we had all this lined up. So when the numbers came out, we were able to act. I'll show you how in a moment. You had to act fast, and the only way that you were going to act fast is if you knew the fundamental analysis. For those that are newer, I look at the world very clearly as a stool. And in that stool, for time's sake, I'll draw it, and I apologize for my childlike drawings. But in that stool, you have macro right here, the top of the stool. Then you have your fundamental, and then you have your technical analysis, right? Right now we have some macro drivers. We just went through that. The fundamental analysis is right here where you're beating, right? And this is your whisper number. So you always want to know what that whisper number is on the bigger things. Ever see that site called Earnings Whisper? That's great, but this is like the institutional stuff. You want to know how they're positioned. And Goldman will put this out for like institutional clients. I'm just showing you a snapshot of what people are actually looking at to make their decisions after hours as we sit there and try and read the tea leaves. And sometimes it's a little difficult. 18.2 is the high end. That's why I'm showing you this, 18.2. So we knew when that number came out and that was released, we knew to act. That's the purpose of this information. So you're planning ahead of time. We'll get into why that's pertinent when you start looking at the time that came out. And then we also had the numbers, so we knew what we were looking on the data center, and you can go through those as well. We wanted to know what they were supposed to beat by. They were supposed to beat by 273. They beat by 279. So when you have all this data and you're all geared up and you're ready and you're prepared, you can act, right? You're not being reactive, you're being proactive. When we knew that this was something we had to pay attention to, and this was something we had to pay attention to, we knew where fourth quarter was. You just saw it in those numbers. And we knew that this was above the whisper, but not at the high end. Now, Jensen says we're firing in all cylinders. The era of generation of AI is taking off. What's he going to say? That things are slow? But I mean, obviously it's a rocket ship right now, and it's only going to get stronger. I took notes. Some of the things they were saying are unbelievable. They actually have Microsoft. I'm going to go off on one tangent here. They have Microsoft booked out to 25. Microsoft's going to be the first with H200 and the chip of H200. You know, they have H100, right? So they have this here. Let me type this up here. I'll do it later. I'll type it on the chart. I'm going to save the time for this, and I'm not going to edit that out. But I want to walk through this because I thought this was absolutely fascinating. The difference in speed between H100 and H200 on a performance basis was staggering when he said it. And I don't think people actually got it. Gaming revenue, they talked about, everybody was all excited. And I really wasn't that thrilled with it, but whatever. I was more interested in this. Now, this is when they start getting into it. And I'll show you this with the trading. So NVIDIA expects that sales in China and country groups will decline significantly. They have these groups now that they're putting out there. It's the Biden administration that's doing it. I don't care which administration it is. I'm just saying because that's who's doing it. And the reason for that is maybe they have a good reason. Either way, it's happening and it's going to decline significantly. It's a problem. It's inventory. This is when the stock dropped. I comment on this in the comments and I'll show you those comments in a minute. With days of sales of inventory 92. That's when the stock dropped, guys. So people are trying to figure out, like, well, why do you have inventory if everything's going so great, right? And that's an issue, and that's something that they have to answer. And that's definitely something that we have to pay attention to as well, that we have to pay attention to. But I didn't like that. When I show you my notes from the trades, you'll actually see that I actually sold into that on the day trade. But this is really interesting, ticking off why is the stock down, and then they'll get into why. Competitive position has been harmed. Our competitive position of future results may further be harmed over the long-term changes of USG export controls. That's what the fancy word for controls. This is when the conference started, and you'll see the stock and how it acted from 5 on. Working with customers in China and the Middle East to pursue licensing from the U.S. government. So they're working on it. Now exceeds $10 billion run rate. It's absolutely exceptional. NVIDIA CFO does not expect regulation compliance solutions contribution to be material or meaningful as a percentage of the revenue in Q4. Let me say this again. CFO does not expect regulation compliant solutions, meaning solutions to the compliance to deal with China, to be material, meaning they're not going to be able to ramp up to sell to them by Q4 is what they're saying. So maybe they're sandbagging there, maybe they're not. But I'll show you the notes that I typed for the room so that you can see this. If you're in the room to get in the community, there are supposed to be 2 days left. Demand to get in the room exceeded expectations, so I did not send out new invites. I will be sending out an invite Monday if you're on the wait list. If not, get on the wait list if you're interested. I'll send out an invitation on Monday, and it will have like a 24-hour window for it. So just make sure that if you're interested, you are on the wait list, and then we're going to shut it down again. The reason for that is I talk to everybody and get everybody up to speed. It's very different than most communities. If you're just looking for someone to yell at alerts and regurgitate information, I'm going to be exhausting. You're not going to like the room. We focus heavily on information and education, and you'll see that even in these notes. So just FYI. So at 5:12, I'm listening to the call, and I'm just telling you what I see. Good conference call. It's easier for me to do this than type it out, guys. And I appreciate you telling me, don't worry about it. Just get the information to us. Don't worry about how you present it. It saves me a lot of time, and I can get more information to you. Lower cost on new chips and faster speed. They're getting the cost of the chip down. Look at this, 18x performance increase from H100 to H200. That's insanity. They already have orders out to 25 from Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. H200. So do you want to look for gold, or do you want to buy the Pix and Axis? So in other words, these people are selling the Pix and Axis. Amazon, Microsoft, and Google are buying the Pix and Axis. Now they're not actually mining for gold. Other people are going to use AI to mine for gold. So I think we could say that these are the Pix and Axes, and maybe Amazon and Microsoft and Google actually own the land that the other people are going to mine on. Maybe if you think about it that way, that might make more sense. You almost want to think about them as like the AI miners is kind of how I'm trying to wrap my head around it. They're going to utilize that for their own benefit, but the real benefit is how other corporations are going to overlay this with Azure, things along those lines. You get it. You understand where I'm going with this. Hopefully you do. Long term, it's going to be blunt, guys, and just show you my notes. This was solid. If you don't understand that this company has the potential to be bigger than Apple in the next 3 to 5 years, I would strongly listen to this conference call. That does not mean it does not drop 10, 20 points tomorrow, guys. Okay, there's a problem with China. There's a problem with the inventory. This is one of the reasons why in the room, and I'll show you the notes, I married puts to everything. I married puts to specifically in case something was off, but because I'm not trying to trade it. I want to just try to build this position and stay with it. I did trade it after hours, and I still am long some from after hours, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do later with it, but I'm still doing okay with it, and I'll show you that trade in a moment. But this is really important. This is why the stock moved. The stock went right up to like 498 when all this hit. Long term, I agree. This is a no-brainer. You're going to get sick of hearing me talk about NVIDIA for the next 3 to 5 years, I think. Short term, we need to get through the rest of the conference call. The China inventory and the fact that they don't have a solution for fourth quarter, it's a problem. And we have to address this. It's an issue. And it could cause the stock to drop tomorrow. So it's something that we have to focus on. I'm doing nothing with the stock after hours. If I do, I will post. At the time of recording this, I did nothing with it. But I want to walk everybody through this because I think this is really important. So as you know that we have the stool, fundamental analysis, macro analysis, and you're aware of that. Right into this with no technicals except watching level 2 is how I did it. As all I did right into this was I was buying. Okay? And because I read the report, I saw that earnings were better than expected, and I saw that they beat third quarter, beat by every metric and even beat the whisper number. So right into this, I'm buying. I'll show you the timestamp in a minute. And then what I'm doing is because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know that this is going to hold. I thought that we get to 460. I thought they'd give us a knee jerk to the downside. So I had limits at 460. They didn't get filled. So then it became go time. And I started putting orders in here. And then what I did was that became my stop on all of it. So now I'm up. My cost was like 477. And I put my cost here. Then when this starts to drop, you'll see this when you see the notes, but I want to show it to you this way. Then when we got back to the top of the control bar, back to where we are right here, we started to roll. What happened? Right? I'm going to use my best voice and say China. And what happened here with China was when they started seeing the inventories, people were like, oh no, that's an issue. And so that became very clear. Okay, it's time to start lightening up the trade. And they know what they're doing here, guys. You're playing with the big guys, right? You're playing against the smartest, most disciplined people in the world. So you got to act like it, okay? You're not playing against the guy that just rented a Lamborghini, so you watch his video. So you're watching the guy that actually owns the Lamborghini store. So you want to watch this and how you're acting at this VWAP. So they were just playing with us all night. Right? That's all they were doing. And they did an excellent job of it, candidly. So right now, I still have some of this position on. I'm leaving some of it on for now. I'll figure out what I'm going to do with it before the close. I'm most likely I'm just going to be blunt. I love it. I really love the quarter. And I think you might get smoked tomorrow, but I have 490s against it, so I'm okay. Where do I think you can get to? Real quick, I think you can get down to here very quickly. And what you might want to do, this would be a great time for us to take a second and really drill into this and focus on this one chart. And so now you can see how I'm putting my trades together, how I'm using the fundamental analysis, the macro. Here's another tool that you can use, and this one's free. So the name of this site is Maximum Pain, right? You can see that right there. All right. And they have this little thing in the middle of it, option. So what they'll do is they'll tell you, okay, this is where we closed right now. This is where the stock is at the time of they're doing the 743 is when I'm doing this. I had to do it late. I was trading, and then I had some coaching calls, some things. So again, you don't really care. You just want to get through the video. But that's why these are a little bit unedited, and I'm trying to just get as much information as I can in the shortest period of time. So, please comment on that. People seem to not care about the unedited part of this, just the info. But let's mark these off. So these are all areas of interest, right? Red is what? Puts. Green is what? Calls. Got it? All right. So I'm going to mark all these off and just say, well, here's the calls. So we can look at that and go, this is where people bought the calls, and then go, okay, this is where people bought puts. So if we're to look at that, then we would note that, okay, well, 400's a pipe dream. That's not going to happen. 460? That might be an issue. 470s? Okay. Well, we just stopped right here, didn't we? All right. 495s, 500s? Okay. Now we're talking. Now there's something there. Look at the max pain level, 477. Where do you think that they might try to take this stock to tomorrow? 477. Where did they take this stock to after hours? Go look at 477. Go look at the battleground at 477. This is chart maturity by the end of the year, or I'm sorry, the end of the week. And you can see right here, the 550s, 0, 0, 0. Smashing people's hopes and dreams all over the place, right? 500s, you think they want to bleed those people to oblivion, right? I mean, think about it. You have to think about it. They're done. They're toast, right? They have wallpaper. So then it comes to here. Maybe they don't do the 450s. You blend all this together and it's 477, 480. This is maximum pain, guys. You can look at this yourself and show it right here. Max pain, 477. If they can get there, they cause the most amount of pain to people. Right there, okay? How did this do after hours? You can see how there was no close right in here in that maximum pain. You got right to this level. So that's the level that you're going to want to watch tomorrow and see if it holds. That's going to be your level right there. Are you going to hold that tomorrow, or are you not going to hold that tomorrow? And that's what you're going to want to focus on. Will you hold that, or will you not hold that? And that's really where you want to be. And that's really how you're going to want to look at things, okay? I can't stress that enough. That's really how you're going to want to look at the world and see how this goes. And that's what I would focus on too. I don't think there's much more to say or do there, but focus on those levels. Now, what we did, again, I walked you through the trades, but I want you to look at these notes because this is really important because this is as fast as it happens. So all day in the room, we were focused on this trade and figuring out how we were going to get in there, what were the best spots to get in there. You can see how we held the 492 right there. Then we start in this little battleground area, which is kind of weird because that's the same spot we held today. And you can see how we're wedged in there. This was just an ANF trade that we were looking at, DLO as well. And then what I was doing was I bought some puts against the position, and then I unwound them, and I was just explaining them. Then I shorted the SP500 puts because it looked to me like the 492 was going to hold. And then I bought more NVDA, and then I married 490s to that position as well. So I was fairly active in there all day. And then we're just talking about some of the other names. But into the end of the day, what we start doing is we just start prepping. So we start going through like Goldman's notes, and all we're doing is pulling up so that we have these memorized by the time that that number comes out, right? And then what we're doing is we're just waiting. And then you can just look at these timestamps, 330, I covered those puts. I covered the short, I shorted a bunch of puts, the 500s, we got the 501, got out. I'm telling everybody, I will be 100% hedged. You can see the timestamp, 330. I will be 100% hedged into NVIDIA. We're going through the calls. We're lined up for when it's coming. We're talking about exactly what we need, okay? Exactly what we need. We need at least 18.2. If we see it, it's a beat. The reason that we're being that specific is because when it hits, you have to act. You can't wait. It's on, or you just don't do the trade. Now, I'm spending time on this because this is how much thought should be placed into these trades. Not as much as just go out there and see how it works, and I really hope it works today. And then this was, I did an LMND trade. It did not work out. I took a loss on that trade from yesterday. On the swing trade, I sold 50%. Not everything I do works, guys. And then I put orders out there at 460 rather, because I wanted to see how this was going to go. And then I saw that. And then I put my buy limit start. That's where they started, 460 and under. I never got there. And then I'm just seeing bids in tech and I'm telling them. And then when they said 20, we knew right there. Okay. And this is me long on the dips. I'm just telling them what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Long on the rally, and you can see they're long and strong in here. Cost under 480, 481 stop. Boom, we're moving the stop up. We're protecting our capital. We see the data. Fourth quarter over whisper. We already know where the whisper is, right? How do we know? Because we have it all set up. We're firing. When everyone else is wondering what's going on, looking at this on FinTwit, trying to figure out what's going on, we're set up. Again, you're playing against the smartest, most disciplined people in the world. This is turning into a tutorial, but it's a darn good one. And you should pay attention to this and make sure that your trades are set up this way, because if they're not, this is who you're playing against, people like me that are ready. And you don't want to be doing that. You want to be set. You want to have all your ducks in a row so that when you fire, you know what you're looking for. We knew fourth quarter was whisper, but it was not ultra high. Okay, it was good though. And then we're going through the data center. We know that that was a solid beat because we knew what the data center was. Still reading, using trailing stops, keep raising your stops. China declined significantly. Then I highlighted. Watch how it acts. Okay, so 425, 426, okay? And then that's it. Boom, trimmed. 426, trim the video. Not a great statement. Let's see. So all I'm watching there at that time at 426 is I am watching this stock and I'm watching how it goes. 425. 426 starts coming down. No. Trimming right into that, okay? I don't care about this. I'm still long 50%. If I'm wrong, I still make money. If they put the kibosh and I get the long bar down, I'm already out. I don't want to be around for that, okay? I do not want to be around for that. I can't be any clearer. You want to put yourself in a position for success. You don't want to put yourself in a position for failure. And then what we're doing is we're just walking it down and we're looking at the charts. We're starting to see the inside bars and we're making decisions. We're being proactive. It should rip through here and then it didn't. It tried and then it kind of failed, right? So it was a spot that you could decide if you wanted to get out or not. Inventory high, and that scared me. It's our competitive advantage could get harmed. And that took us into the conference call. What I didn't like going into the conference call, even though I stayed with the stock, just remember this one statement. When you're going into a conference call, stocks usually gravitate higher, even if it's just god-awful news, because nobody wants the risk of the conference call and to hear it was a currency exchange or what the issue is, okay? So, and then here's my notes. Now, I spent a lot of time going through one trade tonight. I did that specifically so you can see what it really takes to be successful at this. This is how you set up a trade, okay? And that still doesn't mean that it's going to work, all right? So, and that's the type of time you have to put in. If you want to play with these kinds of games after hours, that's what you have to do. Now, tomorrow, these are the names that I would watch if I was you. I would watch AVGO and see how it responds to that 922 level. SMCI, I would respond and see how it gets to 278 and if it holds the low end of that flag. NVIDIA, clearly I think you have the potential to get to what? 477.50. Where'd you get that? There's a website. It's free. It's called Max Payne. It lines right up with the top of that. It's like almost like it's made there. 476.09 is the exact number. Could you get there tomorrow? Yeah, in about 2 seconds you could get there tomorrow. That's why I married puts. My goal is to unwind the puts and stay long the stock. Whether I do that Wednesday or Friday, it's going to be dependent on the video and the action. AMD is going to probably come in. AMD will come in because if you don't have demand on that end, then you're going to have some issues. Now, where that is, 113, 114, I don't think we're going to get there. The one that makes a lot of sense that I really want to play if we get a really bad down day is this SOXL. I know people will be buying the stocks after hours. And, maybe they should. Maybe that's not the worst idea in the world to buy SOX here. But do I really want to buy something that's, up 5% already? Probably not. Maybe not, but, something to think about. And then here, can you get down there? Yeah, but I'll even settle for here. If I can get back to that 22.18, I have an interest. I'm not so sure that this rally's over. This was a good quarter. I just think it's ahead of itself, and we'll go from there. You can always look at the NVDLs. You can always short these. It's 1.5 times. Just short them. You don't have to buy the NVDS. You can just short the other one. This thing's disgusting. Like to try and trade this, even find like a spot for it, it's very difficult. So, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but shorting the NVDL and then getting the expense ratio in your favor, I would rather do that. That's it.